The summer heat in Austin, Texas, that year was relentless. It wasn't just hot. It was the kind of suffocating heat that made the air dance above the pavement and sent even the toughest people running for shelter indoors. My apartment's air conditioner had given up 2 days earlier, and though the landlord had promised to send a repairman as soon as possible, I knew what that meant. Anywhere from tomorrow to sometime next month. The only thing standing between me and melting into a puddle was a tired ceiling fan that turned as if it was struggling for life, pushing around thick, warm air that barely brought relief. I kept a spray bottle filled with water on my desk, misting myself every few minutes as I tried to focus on finishing my college assignments. My name is Rachel Miller. I was 21 back then, splitting my time between a part-time job at a local bookstore and my junior year at the University of Texas. I shared a small but cozy 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, Emily Carter, the kind of friend you could depend on for late-night snack runs, emotional venting sessions about professors, or covering rent when one of us came up short. We had been close since freshman year, so moving in together had just made sense. That Friday, after an exhausting shift of shelving books and helping customers hunt down rare titles, I trudged home, dreaming of nothing but a cool shower and a quiet night. Emily had already told me she'd be spending the weekend at her boyfriend's place, which meant I had the apartment all to myself, a whole weekend of silence and peace. It felt like paradise. When I got home, I dropped my bag on the couch, kicked off my shoes, and took a deep breath. The apartment felt like a sauna. I filled a glass with ice water and downed it in one go before heading for the shower. The water wasn't cold, more like barely cool, but after walking under the Texas sun, it felt heavenly. I stayed under the stream longer than usual, letting it wash away the day's fatigue. Wrapped in a towel, I stepped into my room, ready to pick out some comfy clothes before making dinner. There was no rush. The weekend was mine, and for the first time in weeks, I felt completely at ease. After all, I thought I was completely alone. I dropped the towel over the back of my desk chair and stood in front of the closet, flipping absent-mindedly through my limited wardrobe. That's when the door suddenly swung open. I froze. Standing in the doorway was Daniel Carter, Emily's older brother. He had just returned to town after his summer internship out of state, and apparently, Emily had told him he could crash at our place for the weekend. What she hadn't told either of us was that I'd be home. For a moment, we both just stared, equally shocked, equally mortified. Daniel's eyes widened before he immediately spun around, his face turning a deep shade of red. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were here. I thought," Emily said. His words stumbled over each other, his voice filled with panic and pure awkwardness. My heart pounded as I snatched the towel and clutched it tightly around myself again. "Daniel, you can't just walk in here like that," I blurted out, my voice trembling more from embarrassment than anger. "I swear I didn't mean to," he said quickly, still facing the hallway, one hand gripping the doorknob like his life depended on it. "I thought the place was empty." I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to steady. "Just knock next time, okay?" He nodded hastily. Yeah, of course. I'm really sorry." Then he closed the door and vanished down the hall. I sat on the edge of my bed, my face burning. The humiliation was unbearable. I wasn't angry. He hadn't done it on purpose. But the thought that he'd seen me like that, completely vulnerable and unguarded, made me want to disappear into the floor. The rest of the evening, I stayed barricaded in my room, venturing out only once when I was certain he'd gone to sleep. I tiptoed to the kitchen, grabbed a snack in silence, and hurried back like some kind of thief in my own apartment. The embarrassment clung to me like static, refusing to fade. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I couldn't hide all weekend. I showered, dressed in the most casual but modest outfit I could find, and told myself it was time to face Daniel like an adult. The kind of first impression I was hoping to make, I said, smiling despite myself. Daniel chuckled, leaning back in his chair. Yeah, definitely not how I imagined meeting my sister's roommate again. But for what it's worth, I'm glad we cleared the air. The way he said it, earnest, gentle, made me relax completely for the first time all weekend. The orange glow of the sunset painted his face in soft light, and for a fleeting moment, I caught myself noticing how different he looked from the goofy guy I remembered from freshman year move-in day. He'd grown up, more confident, more grounded. Me too, I said quietly, taking a sip of my soda. I didn't think we'd end up actually talking after. Well, you know, he smiled. Let's call it a lesson in knocking before entering. That made me laugh again, the tension dissolving into the warm Austin evening. We sat there in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the faint hum of cars below and the chirping of crickets, starting up as the day faded into night. When Emily finally returned late Sunday night, she took one look at us sitting side by side on the balcony and grinned. Well, looks like you two survived without me, she teased. Daniel and I exchanged a look, both smiling. Barely, I said with mock seriousness, and Daniel nodded dramatically in agreement. Emily raised an eyebrow, clearly amused but too tired to pry. She went inside to unpack, leaving us alone again. As I gathered the empty soda cans, Daniel stood up beside me. Hey, thanks for not hating me forever, he said softly. I glanced up at him and smiled. You made it pretty hard to. For a moment, we just stood there, neither of us speaking, both a little unsure what to say next. Then he gave a small, almost shy wave and disappeared down the hall to the guest room. That night, as I got ready for bed, I caught myself smiling at the thought of how a weekend that started in complete mortification had somehow turned into something unexpectedly nice. Maybe, I thought as I turned off the light, some accidents aren't all bad after all. How I wanted to meet you, I said, half laughing, half groaning. Trust me, he replied with a grin. I didn't want it that way either. But hey, at least it makes for a funny story someday. Funny for you, maybe, I teased. For me, it's absolutely mortifying. But deep down, I knew he was right. Someday, it would just be a ridiculous story we'd laugh about. What mattered was that we'd moved past it. When Emily came home that night, she found us sitting on the couch, still talking like old friends who'd known each other forever. She paused, raised an eyebrow and smirked. Well, looks like you two hit it off. Daniel and I exchanged a quick glance before bursting into laughter. That weekend taught me something I never expected. Sometimes the most uncomfortable, awkward moments can open the door to genuine connections. What started as pure embarrassment turned into the beginning of a friendship that lasted long after the awkwardness faded. Even now, whenever Daniel visits, he always makes a big show of knocking on my door first and saying, "Permission to enter, Rachel." And every single time, we laugh until our sides ache. Life is full of unexpected moments. Some leave marks that sting, others leave stories worth telling. And this one, well, it'll always be the story of the weekend I thought I'd never live down, only to realize it brought a new friend into my life.